see, for some people, God is the prime mover who set off things in motion and then didn't intervene. So that's one version of the God. That's the deistic version of God. The theistic version is that there's a God, there's a celestial supervisor who's kind of obsessed with what we think. He convicts us of thought crime. He thinks he is concerned about what we do, what we plan to do, and everything. You know, everything is his wish. He's testing us. He's this tyrannical kind of person who's involved in each and every activity that we take. So that is a theistic version of God. So basically, it's a supernatural element which has no evidence, but that is what faith directs people towards. And there are some people who believe that he is the source of all creation. Basically, he is man's attempt to answer the question of the origin of consciousness, the origin of universe, and how these two come about and lead to the origin of life.
Do you believe in God?
I particularly don't, because I don't think that there is sufficient evidence to indicate the presence of a supernatural element. And I would say that I don't know how the universe started, but I would say the same thing for the theists who say that they do know that God started it.
Do you believe in pre-birth act, pre-birth deed of human being? We are getting the good thing in this.
I do believe in soul, you know, if that is what you mean. I don't think saying that we are all soulless, you know, soulless is kind of a pejorative, and it has negative connotations associated with it. But I think that it all started with the sperm meeting the egg, and it ends with death. That's the final thing. So I don't believe in life before this consciousness and life after this.
How will you justify the destiny of a person who at the same time a person is taking birth in the family of Ambani and somebody is taking birth in the family of poor people?
So how do I
justify the fate of that person if you're not believing in the pre-birth or the God?
Actually, there's no fate, it's just accident. You know, all life since the Big Bang can be explained by two processes. One is random mutation and the other is natural selection. So, I mean, it's a matter of pure perspective. See, the same person, if you switch them at birth, apart from the genetic constitution, you see, there are two parts to this, nature and nurture. Right. So nature is that he was born into the Ambani family, he had some genes transmitted on, and that person was born probably into a smaller family, so he had a different genetic makeup. But nurture, now that person gets the opportunity. He's born with a golden spoon in his mouth. The other person has to start his way from the bottom up. So that is different, and I don't believe in fate. It's just an accident of birth that he was born into some smaller family, and he was born into the Ambanis.
Okay, last thing on God. What is the God particle?
The God particle is the Higgs boson. Now it was actually supposed to be the God damned particle because it is, you know, a very elusive particle. You cannot easily find it. But then the God damned particle does not look not that attractive, so they said that it was a God particle. It was, they had some calculations which said that they have accurately found its presence to 99.999 and then some more nines and then finally an 8%. So
Okay.
there is this. They found it as the CERN, which is
Where is
large.
it?
Huh?
Where is it?
The sun is in Switzerland, if I'm not wrong. It's a large hadron collider. They accelerate particles and then they study those things.
Okay, Siddharth, tell me something about yourself.
Also, I grew up most of the time in Meerut, and even as a child, I was very much interested in reading. So that explains a lot of the kind of eclectic exposure that I've had. I am doing a bachelor's in the Department of Electrical Engineering at IIT Kanpur, and at IIT Kanpur I tried to dabble into research and did one or two things. I had a conference publication. Also received this Young Indian Scientist Award by the Honda Foundation Japan. So that was a high point. And I've always been interested in reading, as I told you. So I really became interested in the global financial crisis, and I became interested in economics and finance. Even otherwise, I come from a family of academicians. My father is a sociology professor, so I was interested in economics, psychology, sociology, etc. I think I really became interested in finance. Did my internship at Morgan Stanley. That really got me thinking that this is the kind of thing that I would like to do in the future. And I kind of realized that an MBA would equip me with the kind of skills that are required to make it in this particular industry, and even otherwise. I think that engineers are prone to closed form solutions, and you don't really have closed form solutions in the real world. So
See,
that is something
talking
that I
about
want to
engineers and MBAs.
Right.
Engineers are supposed to find the most probable solution for a problem, right?
Yes.
Managers do the same. How are they
Okay.
different?
So first, the most important difference is that the engineers are looking for a closed form solution. So there is a straight problem and there is a straight solution to it.
Okay.
Now, the best we come close to the real world is in the sphere of, let's say, power. In my particular department, power sector. So what they're trying to do is they want to reduce the power consumed, but they also want to increase their accuracy. So there may be a trade-off in engineering, but the problem is always quite well defined. In the real world, which managers deal with, the problems are not actually defined. They first need to define the problem, understand the various aspects of it, and then take a particular strategy and keep correcting that strategy as it evolves.
Which was the
So
last
that is
problem you believe you solved?
exactly.
Last problem you solved.
Now, so you can always reduce that to different sub problems, but overall you need a strategy for something. Now, you know, I think the most important thing is that the engineering background that I have, the kind of education that people get at an engineering college, it makes them more prone to them doing the mistake that they miss the forest for the trees. Most of the cases this happens. They don't have a holistic view. People at engineering colleges are not voracious readers. They don't read a lot. They are not aware of what's going on in the real world, and then they find themselves catapulted into a position where they're expected to take big decisions, and they don't have it, have what it takes to do that. So I think MBA, those engineering aspirants who go on to do an MBA are probably looking for that kind of value addition, and
Is
that is
there,
how it is different being an engineer and a manager.
is there any historical importance of your city?
Of my city. I come from Meerut, yeah. So like Meerut is described even in the Ramayana. So it's supposed to be the home of the queen of Ravan, Mandodari. She hailed from Meerut. So Meerut is named after Marty, who was his father, of her father. And apart from that, I think we all have heard Meerut in the context of the 1857 uprising. So it all started there. Apart from Mangal Pandey was actually at Barrackpur, that was a one-off incident. The real uprising started from Meerut because there were some soldiers who refused and then they were jailed up, and then the other
Which was the
soldiers
last
wanted to get them out.
mutiny, or Sepoy mutiny, which
Right.
happened before 1857 mutiny.
I think the Barrackpur was a interesting, was a really important one, and there were some others as well. I don't
Have you
remember
read
the
the
details.
history of that 1857 revolt?
Yeah, actually have, because 1857 there was 150 years was completed in 2007, and we had
It was
some
called the
nuclear
first.
test with
It was
it.
called the first war of India's independence. Do
Right,
you
it
agree
was.
with this?
I think there are various aspects to this. The Britishers don't want to credit it to be the first war of
Do you
independence.
agree with this?
I particularly do, and I have my reasons for it.
Do you think that was the war of all India's, revolt for all India's?
Well, the concept of India is a concept that came after the British
Yeah,
came to India. We
how
never had one particular king ruling from
at
Kashmir
the
to
time of
Kanyakumari.
1857 we were having the concept of India?
Before that,
In 1857.
no,
Then how can you call it India's war of independence?
because it was all those people involved were Indians, and there's a more important reason to it.
I
Before
think none
that,
of them were fighting for India at that time.
yes, there were people who were interested, not just their kingdom. Let's consider Rani Lakshmi Bai from Jhansi. The people supporting her, or the kings who were getting together, they had one selfish motive that they want to wrest back the power for themselves. But there were others, let's say the sepoys who started the mutiny. They wanted, and they had a conception of India. They wanted to unite all these kingdoms under the banner of Bahadur Shah Zafar.
But all these fightings,
Right.
everything happening, they wanted their territories to win. They wanted
They,
their
but
portions
they
to be
all
safe.
kind of acknowledge the fact that the Britishers were different and we were different. Even though it's kind of a federal structure. Even today, India is a federal structure. You may say that Uttar Pradesh and Gujarat, they come together to fight against someone else if someone invades us now. So we still have our regional identities. I mean, just look at it. UP is the size of Brazil. You cannot say that the whole UP is revolting against the Britishers, which it did at 1857. You cannot say that this is not India. It was North India, but yes, it was confined to North India. I understand.
UP is the size of Brazil. What do you mean by this?
In terms of population, in terms of area, it is equal to the size of United Kingdom.
Okay. Tell me about, like, you may have heard about two poles on the earth,
Yes.
North Pole and South Pole.
Yes.
Have people visited either?
Yeah, people have visited both.
Who was the first one to visit North Pole?
I think it was Ronald Scott. I don't know. I just remember this, that the South Pole has some points known after Scott and Amundsen. So there's an interesting tidbit to it that the first person who went there, he died while coming back, and there was a second person who reached there, and then he found some of that earlier person's body remains, and then he told the world that somebody else has been there. So that is the Scott and Amundsen. So there were two people who are credited to going to the South Pole, and the North Pole, I just cannot remember who the first
Okay,
one was.
you know about sun, it's a star, right?
The sun's star.
Okay. How does a star get converted into a black hole?
So in fact, there's an Indian context to this. So the sun is a star. It's in the middle of its lifetime. It's actually a young star. So slowly it would start blowing up. It would become a giant red star,
How
and
does it become that?
because its chemical composition changes. Right now there is a lot of hydrogen in it that would get converted into into helium. Oh, this is astrophysics. I don't know much about that. But an interesting thing over here is B.S. Chandrasekhar. He proposed the Chandrasekhar limit. So once a giant red star wants to collapse, well, there are two options. Either it converts into a neutron star, or it converts into a black hole. Now there are these two possibilities, and to
Neutron
decide,
star and a black hole.
these are the two
Then what's a
ultimate things.
dwarf star?
That is probably an intermediate stage, but the ultimate fate, if I'm not wrong, is either a neutron star or a black hole. So if your weight is above the Chandrasekhar limit, you become a black hole, else you become a neutron star.
Okay.
Because it collapses under its own gravity, you need more mass for that.
You may be having a job, Siddharth, right?
Yeah, I got selected for Deutsche Bank.
Okay. So why come for MBA? Like you have a good job, you have
Right.
everything, so why go for
So I
something
think
like
I don't see MBA as a ladder for getting a good job, because I already have one. That's not my reasoning. I'm looking at MBA as a process of learning. Now I've heard that people from the best backgrounds come here, study from the distinguished faculty, the best faculty that we have in our country, and they spend their time, most of the time, discussing problems, real life problems, doing a lot of case studies. Now that opens them up to the kind of issues that you actually address in the real world. Now, I want to learn from others' mistakes. I don't want to make my own. That's my philosophy. That has been my philosophy, and an MBA allows me to do that. So I'm looking at the value addition that the MBA will provide in terms of real business acumen, real knowledge, case studies, and a lot of things that I haven't done. I have been majoring in electrical
who is
engineering.
the current BJP head?
Rajnath Singh, he just
And he replaced?
Nitin Gadkari.
No, Nitin Gadkari was convicted.
Has he
Convicted
been
of?
convicted?
Convicted,
He's
alleged.
charged.
Yeah,
Alleged.
he's charged.
Yeah. Of
Corruption.
corruption. So what exactly did he do? His Spurti group, I think, was
Yes, the
associated.
Purti group. In fact, that Purti group was probably started by him, but that he doesn't even have a majority stake in it. So
There was
basically what-
something like shell companies which he created.
Yeah.
Can you tell me how do you create a shell company?
I don't know what exactly a shell company would do, but yes, a shell company is a front company. So you basically target your money, and you package other enterprises into a shell company. So basically, you want to, let's say there's a shell company in Mauritius. So the real operation of the shell of the company would be in somewhere else, but the shell company, the front of the company, would be in Mauritius, and it would be trying to leverage the tax laws that can happen. Even in the case of Purti, it had a lot of small investors.
What is GAR? GAAR?
It's a general anti-avoidance rules.
Yeah.
So that is regarding this. They don't want people to come up with shell firms purely for the purpose of tax avoidance.
So government is doing something on that.
The government wants to do something on that, but there are two issues to it. Most of the investment that is coming to India is coming via the routes which avoid tax, which is Mauritius and one or two Seychelles Islands, etc. So if you impose GAR, people would it would change the profit percentage. Let's say I'm making a profit of 100 right now, and I start taxing it at 30%. The profit goes down to 70. The real returns decline. So India would not be that good an investment opportunity. So that is one major concern. And secondly, we cannot violate the treaties that we already
But
have in
actually
place.
GAR, which we are saying, it's said as creating loss in investments for
Yes,
the nation.
good.
Why so?
Because you're going to tax the investment, which would push down the profitability, and
But
hence people
it's
won't
very
come in.
necessary because we
Yeah,
tax.
it is, and that's the other side of the story. But
Why?
it makes the enterprise less profitable for foreign investors.
Can you name some sectors which were like when the privatizations was enforced in 91 by Manmohan Singh and his like government of PV Narasimha Rao, There were some sectors which were kept still under government.
Yes, you are.
Which were those?
So I think the big industries, they were never privatized. They still,
Examples?
let's look at the petroleum industries. They
Okay.
still have a large government stake. You have the Aluminium Corporation of India.
What is the percentage of share that a private company has that a government company does not? How do you classify between a private and a public company?
I think the majority stakeholder is the government, so that would definitely be in excess of 26%.
Okay.
And in fact, in most cases, it is much more than 50%. Even when they disinvest, they are probably just cutting down the share, let's say from 60 to 55. They do it in chunks, they are not doing the whole thing away. That is the kind of ownership patterns in the public sector enterprises. In private sectors, it depends. Even like let's say let's look at the Tatas. In the Tata group, the Tatas actually just have almost 5% of equity. The rest is in other names. There is this Palonji. Cyrus Mistry comes from the Palonji family, which has its own stakes. So it's not necessary that you have a commanding stake in a firm.
Okay. You may be aware of lot of Naxalism prevailing in India.
Yeah, I'm actually very interested in it.
Okay. Where does the term Naxalism come from?
So Naxalism is a movement. So this term comes from Naxalbari, which was a place in West Bengal where the first such movement took place. It was a farmers' movement, and since then all the movements of that nature have been classified to be the Naxalite movement.
Okay. What is Red Corridor then?
The Red Corridor is the corridor in the middle of India that would comprise territories from Chhattisgarh, parts of
So why is
Odisha.
it called red?
Oh, it's red because of the Naxals subscribe to a Maoist philosophy, and the Maoists and the Communists are associated with the color red, just like the Hindu fundamentalists are associated with saffron.
Who was Mao?
Well, Mao was Mao Zedong, who was a Chinese leader in early 20th century, and
Early
he
in 20th century.
early 20th century. Mao
Why
was early
so?
20th century. I'm pretty sure about this.
Okay.
Any one contribution he did in China?
When Mao let them throw off the shackles of the aristocrat, um, that's what he did. He had his Red Army who went ahead and established Mao. It was later that the Cultural Revolution came
What is
in
the
and then
string
they
of
had
pearls China talks about?
string of pearls.
Yeah.
I think a string of pearls would be if China's talking about it, it probably has to be about the chain of islands and
But
probably the
India
China
has
Sea.
problem with this string of pearls.
India has a problem with this too. Okay.
Recently,
See, it has to be in some major sea, more probably on some important trade route. Uh, if I'm not mistaken, is it somewhere in the Pacific or the South China Sea?
no.
It's not.
It's more related with the subcontinent.
Okay, so probably somewhere in the Indian Ocean.
Okay, no problem. Now, one last question on your current affairs.
Okay.
Okay. Recently, Republic Day happened.
Yes.
Who was the chief guest?
They're probably the chief guest. I think they had to once again use their standard backup, who is the Bhutan king,
Who is he?
King Jigme Wangchuk. He has been to India a lot many times as the Republic Day chief guest, but he was a backup option if I heard correctly because there was someone else who was invited in his place.
Where was the Science Congress held recently?
I don't really track all the science and technology
Where
news.
was the NRI conference held recently?
Then NRA, the Pravasi Bharatiya
Yeah.
Conference. Oh, that happens on the same dates actually every year, 7th, 8th, and
Where
9th
was it
January.
held? Where was
7th, 8th, and 9th. Where?
this time?
This time is just in Edges. I don't know. You see, if it changes every year, then I really don't have a clue. If it doesn't, then probably it
We
should happen in
celebrate
Delhi.
every day 9th January as the NRI day. Why
So,
is it so? 9th January.
I don't know. I haven't heard.
Okay, no problem. Now,
Maybe
Siddharth,
it has something to do with some.
tell me
Nice
something about your
NRI who are-
weaknesses.
Gandhi, it was religion.
Okay.
Tell me something about your weaknesses.
Oh, I have a couple of things that I would like to work upon. My friends tell me that I'm very stingy. So that is something that you cannot be even in a corporate setting or even in an intrapersonal setting. Like you cannot go out with people and say that I don't want to go to this place because I don't want to spend much money on it. So that is one thing that I would love to work upon. Another thing is my presentation skills. I think I seriously lack there in making PowerPoint presentations or even addressing large crowds. because I'm not as structured, and there are many things that I like. I've been trying to work upon that. I have tried to volunteer for making presentations in various courses and even give lectures as part of various clubs. So that is something that I do try to do.
Whom do you idolize, Siddharth?
I don't have any idols because I don't believe in the idea of a role model because it gets too anachronistic, you know. I mean, you can look up to people who probably lived 50 years before you or were at least 50 years elder to you. So that makes it very
Okay.
anachronistic. But I am influenced. If you
Okay.
want to know who have primarily influenced my thinking, that would be two people, P. Sainath and Christopher Hitchens. So these are two people I really look
Who are
up to.
they?
Well, P. Sainath is a rural affairs editor of the Hindu, and he has worked a lot. He's a Maxisi Award winner, and he works a lot in the Vidarbha region. He has brought this to the forefront, and the Hindu does a lot of rural reporting, which I think is a credible thing. And the second person, Christopher Hitchens, is like the chief atheist pugilist of the world, and he was a political commentator. It's only his last 10 years of life that he has become, very much involved in debates on atheism, etc. But he has a very liberal stand on most
Which
issues.
newspapers do you read?
I read the Hindu regularly, and I also try to get through the opinion pages of the Economic Times.
Who is present the political editor of it?
Political editor. Well, I know the editor. It's Siddhartha Rajan, but I don't know the political editor.
Okay. Now, if you have two choices, going to Harvard
Okay,
or going to IIM Ahmedabad,
right now today.
yeah, which do you choose? Which one to?
Well, let's first of all address this question and say that this is a hypothetical question. I don't have an offer from Harvard, and I don't think anyone has. Any person who's graduating right now cannot have an offer from Harvard to do the MBA program.
Why so?
Because they do require work experience.
You're right.
So the best thing that you could do is HBS 2+2, which is a program where you require, you'll be selected now, but you'll join HBS 2 years later after doing some 2 years of work
You
experience.
plan on that?
No, I don't, because that I won't get through it. I know that because they're looking at people with very diverse backgrounds, and an IIT and with an engineering background who's going
But
to
you
work
have
for
a diverse
Asana.
background.
Huh?
What has been your role towards community?
Towards the
Contributions.
Well, I think that I really haven't been that useful for the community till yet. I do plan to do that in the future, but I have tried to do some good things whenever I get an opportunity to do. I try to, I know I've been involved with this initiative in our campus, which is known as the Prayas. They teach the disadvantaged children living around the locality. So there's this Nankari area behind the IIT Kanpur campus, which is a pretty backward area. Students come from there. We teach them in the evenings. That has been one involvement of mine, especially during the first and second year when I was really free. And of late, any community service kind of thing I don't, but on a personal level, I do go ahead and make some blood donations whenever those meals come in.
Okay.
What is Finance Commission?
The
What is
Finance Commission. The Finance Commission is looking at a lot of changes that we need to do. It's trying to cap the budget deficit and the fiscal deficits, etc.
Are you sure?
The Finance Commission, it's constituted periodically as the first thing, and
Which one is constituted recently?
I am not aware of that. I don't remember the number, but I think yes, they have a finance commission and who is coming up with ways to cap the expenditures and get some more
You
money.
have studied about power engineering, right?
I have, but I did that in my second year. I don't think I'm very well.
You may be
versed with it.
aware about transmission lines.
Yeah, a bit. Actually, this was not the area which I was really interested in. I was more interested towards communication, etc.
Communication.
Yeah, more towards studies. My
Yeah.
projects have been in that field.
You also mentioned that you want to improve on your communication. Although it has been a decent one to this.
Yeah, probably in
journey.
a small group I do well because that's probably because of my reading habits and
And
I
what
have
have
an
you been
eclectic
doing
background.
to improve on that?
On my communication skills.
Yeah.
I think there are many books. I've even read some Harvard Business Review books
But
which
that,
talk about these things.
don't you believe that reading too many books makes you an introvert?
No, I don't think so because you need to have something on your mind if you need to speak. You can obviously babble a lot. I know a lot of people who babble a lot. I was a very good debater when I was at school, and then I came to IIT Kanpur, which does not have a very vibrant debating culture. But they do have an English Literacy Society, and there you have people from Delhi and Mumbai, and all they do is babble. They have an event known as Just a Minute, Jam, where you're supposed to babble any nonsense, but that has to be grammatically correct. So I think you need ideas, and that is why I read a lot. And as far as communication goes, it depends. Like if I am reading 10 hours a day, I can still discuss what I have read for 1 or 2 hours a day, which I really do. My best friends, they all want to go into the Indian Administrative Services, and they never even sat for the placements or the CAT. So I
Okay,
do discuss a lot with them. I think that will hone my
one last
communication
question for
skills.
you. If you're not selected for this interview, what you believe will be the primary reason for that?
I think probably found better candidates than me. I think that's difficult, but that would have been just a perception.
Okay, thank you.